Drew Mestemaker coming to Oklahoma State changes the Cowboys' outlook. But how much? Is it possible Oklahoma State is the biggest riser in the win column in all of college football?
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
This crossover of Locked On the Portal and Locked On Oklahoma State. I am Brian Smith, along with Cody Stovall, here to brighten your day with some news about the Big 12, Oklahoma State being relevant again, and some guy named Drew Mestemaker that is allegedly pretty good at throwing a football. Those are the main topics today, basically, because world only knows Cody doesn't need to see any more psychiatrists. He needs to see Oklahoma State win some football games.
You nailed it, buddy. You nailed it.
And after the day he's had, he needs more good news. So let's dig in here, man. I appreciate you stopping in with me. This is a fun pod because the Big 12 is always difficult, but last year was even more topsy-turvy than normal because it had a big shift up and down. Usually there's more, like it was meatier in the middle most years. Last year, more solid in the middle. Like it wasn't near as good. Kansas State, Iowa State kind of fell off there after the start. Obviously, Oklahoma State never got started.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, hold on. How dare you disparage the mighty UT Martin, okay? How dare you disparage that massive W? Mike Gundy's last W. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. He's the all-time leader in wins, I'm sure, at Oklahoma State and all that stuff. And
yeah, by like 70 country miles.
But anyway, I've got questions for Cody, who runs the Oklahoma State pod and does a great job. And we've even got some at the end. I want to get into some Big 12 path to the playoff. I have a couple questions, BYU, etc. So let's start with this, man. Before I've got 7 I'm going to put on the screen, but when you heard Drew Mestemaker was going to be coming, I'm sure you'd seen him play in some capacity. I'd seen him in passing a little bit.
Right.
But like his numbers are ridiculous. 4,300 plus yards. And usually when I see numbers like that, the team's terrible on defense. They have no run game. They just have to throw it every down.
Yeah.
Well, this following, I didn't tell you I was going to put this screen up, but look at number 3 on this screen. What's that name? Right?
Yes, sir.
Hawkins, Oklahoma State, transfers in with Mestemaker. Last year for North Texas, he had 1,431 yards and 25 scores. This list I have up for those of you watching on YouTube. This is PFF's top 10 running backs for 26. Hawkins transfers over to Oklahoma State with Mestemaker. I mean, he was only a freshman last year as well, so he's a legit guy too. So you got some balance there. Shamar Rigby comes in and some other receivers. I mean, I don't know if they're going to be the 88 49ers at wide receiver, but at the same time, they ought to be better. The defense was okay down the stretch, so you just need the toy at quarterback to kind of at least make you competitive in shootout games. I doubt they're going to beat Oregon. I doubt they're going to beat Texas Tech, but like this should be a bowl team is my minimum expectation because Eric Morse is proven he can coach. He took, I mean, for those who don't know, Mestemaker was a walk-on out of Vandergrift High School in Austin, Texas at North Texas. He did not start in high school. It is one of the greatest stories I've ever seen in college football.
Correct.
And now he's there. So what is your expectation for him going in for Oak State?
Well, in the graphic that you put up, right, the question was, can he hit 3,500 yards after last season having just under 4,400 yards, 34 touchdowns throwing, 39 touchdowns overall. So he was able to mix in a few of the rushing capabilities as well. Here's what I'm going to say, and it might be slightly controversial. Everybody's going to be trying to be the new Indiana, and everybody's going to try to have the next Fernando Mendoza. I think it is very, very evident that Oklahoma State might be the best team in the country that is lined up to replicate what Indiana did. Now, does that mean we're going to have an 11-win season year one? Probably not, right? That would be a little greedy from Oklahoma State fans to expect anything other than like 8 wins, right? I think if you're asking for 9, 10, 11 wins after a 1-win season, that's a bit much. But you already alluded to it. How dare you take my ammunition and be good at your job? Because I was going to say, yes, Drew Mestemaker can do that. And the reason being primarily because of Caleb Hawkins. You're right. Whenever somebody's putting up that amount of yardage, it typically indicates that they don't have a lot of defensive capabilities against them, or they're a one-trick pony and they're having to throw the ball around the yard 24/7. That was not the case when you have a tailback that can rush for almost 1,500 yards while you're throwing for 4,300 yards. You've got 1,100-yard receiver, another 900-yard receiver. His ability to distribute the football is Fernando Mendoza-esque. He's going to take a little bit more chances than Fernando Mendoza, but dude, they're the same exact size. They're the same frame. They run the same way. They think the same way. And I think that's one of the biggest leadership capabilities that you're seeing come out. You got to have a dude at quarterback to have a chance. This is the first dude we've had since Spencer Sanders. And I could easily make the argument that Spencer Sanders was so limited offensively from a play calling perspective that we never got to see the best parts of Spencer Sanders. Eric Morris is going to unearth that out of Oklahoma State. So question number one, will he throw for 3,500 yards? I firmly believe so. Additionally, because when you go and get Donovan Green from LSU at tight end, that adds another wrinkle, another layer, and you get Ashton Aleppo, 6'7", 330-pound tackle out of Michigan State. You go get 6'6", 330-pound Jacob Sexton from OU. You get Louis Canepa back. Like, all of the pieces are there, offensively at least, for Drew Mestemaker to do precisely that.
I think that's a very fair point. And here are all the questions that I have for Cody. Number one, he just answered, is he going to go over 3,500 yards? Talking of Drew, I think that he's got a good chance to do it, and they're going to still have to score. I'm sure Oklahoma State's depth on the defensive side, it's not probably where they want it to be. They'll be competitive, but he's still going to have to throw it around. Number two, will Oklahoma State beat any of Oregon, Houston, Texas Tech, West Virginia, or Arizona State? I believe West Virginia's on the road. Oregon's at home. I think Houston's on the road.
Yep.
I mean, where are you with some of these games, whether the location's tough? I mean, West Virginia will be better this year.
Correct.
Arizona State, Houston, Texas Tech. That's 3 out of the 4 teams I kind of think are going to be really good. They don't play BYU, but they play the other 3 that I think are going to be pretty good. Do you get any dubs out of that list?
I certainly believe so. And not to poke fun at Houston, I think they're a wonderful story. I love Connor Wigman. But that's essentially a home game for Oklahoma State. Now, they're better, so it will be a little bit different. But historically speaking, every time Oklahoma State plays in Houston, the crowd is legitimately, not being hyperbolic here, it's legitimately like 65 to 70% orange. So that is a pseudo home game for Oklahoma State. I know Houston fans aren't going to love hearing that. Secondarily, it's going to come down to a shootout between Connor Wigman and obviously Drew Mestemaker. I love their story, but at the end of the day, I have more faith in Drew Mestemaker. And I think even just logistically, Brian, if you have 4,400 yards in the AAC, are you going to do that in the Big 12? No. So you could reasonably expect maybe 800, 1,000 yards less than what you did in the AAC, which is precisely why I think 3,500 is a very good possibility. Another big thing is there's going to be a lot of tempo, man. He's going to have a ton of opportunities. So I think when you mix all of that in, Oklahoma State does get a win at Houston. I think we do get a win at West Virginia. I don't think we're going to be able to beat Oregon. Even if we were at full capacity, I don't think you can get, 100 players schematically on the same page in 2 games, right? But you would expect when coming into Big 12 play, because they have 18 North Texas players that are teaching our guys the system and the calls and the shifts and the protections, I think that is going to expedite Oklahoma State to a position to, yes, win on the road in Morgantown. I think we do win on the road against Houston. Texas Tech in Boone Pickens Stadium. It's like second or third last game of the season. That's going to be interesting. If I were to throw a dart at the board, do we win right now against Tech? No. But yeah, it depends on how things shake out. If you begin the season and your only loss is Oregon, and you have a West Virginia dub, a Houston dub, before you even have that conversation, yeah, it does change the complexity of the season, in my opinion.
I think that's a very fair point. Next one is another very fun question. Number 3, over under Caleb Hawkins, 1,200 yards. Now, remember, he had 14+ last year, but that, again, is not the same level. He's now at the Big 12. So what do you say on Hawkins with the Cowboys?
I don't think he gets quite to 1,200, the asterisk being in the regular season. I do think that he's a 1,000-yard back. I think he could be an Ollie Gordon 1,800-yard back if we didn't have complementary pieces. I think when you have Katie Batman Jones coming in, you have to put him on the field. His speed, his elusivity, his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. So I think that there's so much talent around Caleb Hawkins that he's going to get slightly less carries. In addition to that, I think the coaching staff is well aware when you go to the Big 12, it's a much different ball game. So you don't need to get Caleb Hawkins unnecessarily banged up, which is something we didn't do well with Ollie Gordon. We had to feed Ollie Gordon because that was the only semblance of offense we had. This year will be different. I think we'll be able to distribute the ball out a little bit more evenly, which will lead Caleb Hawkins to not quite get to that mark. Because I think Katie Batman Jones or Adeo Dye, I think they could easily get 300-400 yards as well.
I agree. When we come back, I've got more questions for Cody. Going to dive into the roster, some expectations. Then a little bit later, we're going to talk about the Big 12 overall, getting the programs forward. Not just one team into the playoff. Could they get two at some point down the road, get three? How does the Big 12 move forward? That is next, right here on this crossover. Today's show is brought to you by Mazda and the continuation of moving the game forward by Mazda. For those of you who score never tells the whole story, because in college football, there's always stuff going on behind the scenes. And this is a great example of today's show with Oklahoma State and Cody. Caleb Hawkins doesn't get talked about much. Drew Mestemaker is already starting to make the rounds as a quarterback, and he deserves tons of credit. But Caleb Hawkins is a dude. Nobody really went after him, ends up at North Texas. He made everybody pay who didn't come after him. Now he cashes in and goes to Oklahoma State. He's put in the work to get there. He's an example of these kinds of players that they're just more than highlights, man. They do the grind behind the scenes, early mornings, late night runs, constantly showing up for their squad on and off the gridiron. And that is the same with the all-new Mazda CX-5. It moves the same way with more space to connect, a bold new design, and more intuitive technology so you can stay connected to the road and every position you play. The all-new Mazda CX-5, more to move every side of you. We are also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. NCAA tournament is rocking. One of the best times of the year. Brackets, buzzer beaters, upsets. It is nonstop action from tip-off to the final cut down of the nets. Right now, FanDuel is giving customers a new way to stay in the action all tournament long. You can get up to $300 in bonus bets every 10 days, each day for every 10 days. That means 10 chances to stay involved throughout the entire tournament. You can mix it up however you want. Game picks, futures, and even same-game parlays. Do whatever you want. It is your opportunity. So visit FanDuel.com to sign up today. FanDuel.com to get in on the action. Speaking of the action, make sure you get in on the Everydayer Club. Check it out down below in the description. Use code MARCH for a free month. You can get your audio pods with no ads, $5 a month thereafter, and $50 for the year. Your choice. Check out the Everydayer Club. All right, Cody, O-line, D-line, real quick, interjecting question. Last year it was goofy. Offense just was bad for the most part. Quarterback, they didn't trust. The team knew it. They made a lot of problems for the O-line and stuff. Will the O-line just be better? Like significant, not like a little bit, but like, are we going to see a growth spurt? You're like, okay, this is a different deal. You got the kid from Kansas coming in at center. I forget his name.
Yep.
That's a hell of a start because he's a guy that's got legitimate starting experience. Go from there. Give me what you got on the.
Yeah, I mean, I already mentioned 6'7" National Aleppo from Michigan State, 6'6" Sexton from OU. Obviously, we did go get Tyler Mercer from KU. We got Johnny Dixon III coming over from North Texas. We got Magaya coming over from North Texas. And I think the familiarity, right, is going to be massively beneficial. So as it sits right now, is this offensive line ahead of last year's at this moment? Absolutely. Do we realistically know how good we are? Not yet, because we haven't thrown on pads, right? One of the best kept secrets, I guess, in football is offensive linemen. Their job is to hold you, but do it so well that nobody sees it. So when you don't have pads, it's really difficult for an offensive lineman to get in the chest and establish that position. When they get pads on and the O-lineman can get hands on and become more aggressive, I think that'll give us the peak behind the scenes that we need to see. But again, from a conversational communication standpoint, they are ahead of schedule compared to last season. And if you notice, the back half of the year, the last 5-6 games, Oklahoma State's offensive line started producing pretty daggone well. And you do get Louis Canepa back. You do get Caleb Hackelman back. So I think this is going to be a big year for Oklahoma State because that O-line group is a much more cohesive unit already.
Well, that's an important part of it. All right. Will the Cowboys finish in the top 80 of total defense? Last year was dreadful, number 116. Where do you say the Cowboys finish? Because, I mean, it can't be 116, Cody. That's not acceptable behavior.
Well, no, and I think if I looked up, somebody will correct me, I'm sure, but I recall the last time when I looked up North Texas, they were like 48th, something to that effect in the country.
Not too bad.
It's not bad. They're very opportunistic, right? I liken it to the 2011 Oklahoma State defense, where that offense was humming and putting up 50, 60 points and games were over by halftime. But that defense gave up 25, 35 points on a fairly regular basis, but they were the definition of bend but don't break. If you got into the red zone, your chances of getting a touchdown on that 2011 D were very, very, very slim. And we led the country in turnovers. I think that is the same game plan here for Skylar Cassidy, and I think it has to be, right? I think Eric Morse mentioned the reason he brought Skylar Cassidy over is because it takes a unique defensive coordinator that's willing to have their guys basically running cross-country meets, because when your offense is tempo, you're going to be throwing the ball around the yard 24/7. You're going to score in 20 seconds sometimes. You're going to go 3 and out in 20 seconds sometimes. So it puts a ton of pressure on your defense. The emphasis has been creating turnovers, getting into the backfield and causing chaos, being super aggressive. Does that mean we're going to get burnt deep a decent amount? Probably. But again, it's risk to reward. If you get bit deep a decent amount of times, but your turnover rate is +2, +3 every single game, then it cancels itself out. And then again, you have an offense that should be able to put up 40 on almost anybody.
I agree. All right, number 5. Who will be the breakout player for the Oklahoma State Cowboys?
So I'm going to give you a couple, if that's okay. So you mentioned Shamar Rigby earlier. Yes. It really stuck to lose him to Wisconsin, but I think his replacement from Illinois, the 6'4", 225-pound Justin Bowick, he is a name that everybody's already talking about in spring camp. He's a big body beast. He could play tight end if he put on a few pounds. He could be a Tracy Moore type for Oklahoma State, but that red zone target is something that Drew Mestemaker is going to need. If you know you're going to be in the red zone quite a bit, and you know every team in the country is going to be trying to Ollie Gordon, Caleb Hawkins, a.k.a. put 7-8 in the box, you got to have those massive red zone targets. We talked about Donovan Green at tight end earlier. I think Justin Bowick is an extension of that. I mean, dude, think about it. The GOATs of wide receiver at Oklahoma State, the Des Bryants, the Justin Blackmans, the Tylan Wallaces, all of those dudes were great at what? High pointing the ball in the mother truck and end zone. That's what we have now out of Justin Bowick. And I think the Shamar Rigby replacement is actually a little bit of an upgrade. And then additionally, I'll give you Chris Barnes, another wide receiver from Wake Forest. The dude is an absolute track star. He is a 10.6 or 10.7 100-meter dash. This dude is going to be absolutely massive at Oklahoma State. He had like 530 yards, 480 yards, something to that effect at Wake Forest. We lose Gavin Freeman, who replaced Brendan Presley, and it appears as though Chris Barnes at the slot might be a little bit of an upgrade, meaning the almost 1,000-yard Miles Coleman, he may be splitting time this year. I think that's how good Chris Barnes can be.
That's a pretty big statement. Number 6, your biggest concern for the 2026 season would be?
I mean, the defense is the easy answer, but if I were to go a little bit deeper into the onion, the two things that are concerning to me are still defensive line and the safeties. Now, I know we did bring over Quentin Hammonds, who is a very, very solid safety. He had a really good, I think he was top 5 PFF grade this previous season at North Texas. So he's going to be big. And then you got Justin Bodnar, who seems to be checking out pretty well. You got Mose Phillips, the third from Mizzou. So I think we have some depth at safety, but I don't know that we have the proper 2 deep. Does that make sense? I think we got a good starter, but the depth behind him just seems like a bunch of big 6'2", 200-pound athletes that haven't exactly translated onto the field yet. So I don't know how that's going to look. And then D-line, of course, you're hearing good things about like Jerry Lawson coming over from Louisville. Deshaun Brown's back. Lil Johnson's back. Amon Oates is back. So you've got some help. You've got some dudes. But again, I don't know what the depth component is, right? The depth components have been guys like Landon Dean and Luke Webb in the past. Are they going to be called on more this year? Or is it going to be very transfer heavy on the D-line? I don't know. The linebackers, I will say, very, very, very happy about them. That's probably it is the best position, the deepest position with the most talent on the defensive side of the ball for sure. And the cornerback room has gotten steadily better. So the back end safeties and the D-line are my biggest concern.
All right, number 7, and finally, over under 6.5 wins for Oklahoma State.
I mean, the standard should always be 7, right? Like the Mike Gundy standard for 18 years, 19 years almost, was 8 to 10 wins. That was the standard. That's what he did. He did it on a regular basis. That's why he became who he was. So I think Oklahoma State, to be trending in the right direction, you got to get to 7 wins, right? That just seems fair. But I have a caveat. You ready? We're paying for way more than 7 wins. So this is the downside to NIL. When you do get the big investments and you do get the mini Cody Campbells, pumping money into the organization, then you have to have a return on investment. So I think it would be greedy for Oklahoma State fans to ask for anything other than 7, 8 wins. But you are financially, you're paying your quarterback $7.5 million to do what? To get you to the Big 12 title. Thankfully, we got 3 years of Drew Mestemaker, unless he goes pro earlier. But yeah, man, that's that would be an ideal scenario, I guess. I
actually have a fun, happy thought that we're going to give Cody after the break about that, because I think he's on to something. They spent a lot of NIL, but not all these guys are going to be gone right away. That is next right here on this crossover. Today's show is brought to you by Supply House. You wouldn't show up on game day without a plan, and you wouldn't show up on a job without the right parts. That's why putting Supply House in your starting lineup is always the right call. 500 tried and true blue blood brands, 300,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products. 90% of the industry is the 1 to 2 day delivery zone. This is the right company for you. Make sure you check out Supply House, because if you need a last minute coupling, compressor, press tool, they've got it, and they'll get it to you quickly. That is clutch. If you're a pro in the trades, you can also join the MVP of Rewards programs, become a trade master. Pros get exclusive member-only pricing, priority shipping, industry-leading customer service, and it's absolutely free. Visit supplyhouse.com/TM to learn more about becoming a trade master. Use promo code SH5College for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com, promo code SH5, Supply House. Real people, real service. We are also brought to you by our friends at Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. People moving the action. So when the momentum shifts, you move with it. You always knew the game, but never had the dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator, play-by-play. You decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the United States. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a futures commission merchant and swap firm. Cody, I think you were right. There's an opportunity for a lot of different people to look at Oklahoma State and say, man, they spent a lot of money. They're going to be lucky to get to a bowl. This is a layered thing. Usually teams don't make like 7 or 8 game changes in their win-loss record.
Right.
But would that be shocking this year? No. The game, so getting to 8 is not out of the question. They're in the Big 12. It's not the SEC. They're not going to be playing against teams that have way more talent. For the most part, now Texas Tech and a few of those are not going to be friendly, but at least you got a quarterback you could win a shootout.
Yeah.
Last year, you couldn't win any of those.
Correct. Yeah.
So some of those games that get in the 30s last year, they had no chance. So from that perspective, I think it's true. But the bigger thing isn't this year. It's get to a bowl at least.
Yeah.
And keep a lot of the guys. Hawkins and Mestemaker where it starts. But those any of the linemen have extra eligibility. Is keeping them here so you develop for the long term. Then in 27 beyond, technically, you should be really good. If Mestemaker goes crazy this year, your only problem is he might turn pro. Because
well, and there's a reason. See, again, this is a confidence thing. There's a reason Drew Mestemaker just participated in the pro day, because there is an outside chance that he's only here for 1 year, because he does precisely what he just did again at North Texas and proves that he can do it on this level as well. But yes, I think we should expect 7-8 wins. Are we technically paying for more than that? Yes. But Drew Mestemaker, last year, freshman. Caleb Hawkins, freshman. Miles Coleman, he was only a sophomore. Wyatt Young's only a junior. I think out of all of the transfers we brought over, 60 some odd transfers, there's literally only a handful of seniors. So this transfer portal that he brought in, and most of the guys that were successful at North Texas last year, they were all underclassmen anyways. See, that's the other impressive thing that seems to not get brought up enough. He did everything at North Texas, 12 wins with a bunch of freshmen and sophomores, and he brought mostly all of them that he wanted with him to Stillwater America. So, yes, we should expect 7-8 wins. We're paying for maybe 9 or 10-ish. But if you get to that 7-ish range and you get a lot of these guys back, then we get to start talking about an 11-win season.
I think the biggest question for me, and this just popped in my head, so excuse me for interjecting here, but who is the likely backup to Mestemaker? Because reps are always important, but is there somebody or no?
Easy. And then so I get to talk to a few of the fellas here and there, and the common consensus is Grant Jordan, the backup that came over from Yale. He would have started over Alan Bowman, Garrett Rangel, Milwaukee Smith, everybody we've had for the last 4 years. And yes, and the biggest thing is you have to have that, that swagger about you, right? You wouldn't necessarily think a dude coming from Yale would have that, I'm going to be the king kind of guy, but he does present himself that way. So the team feels very confident that if something happened to Drew Mestemaker and Grant Jordan had to come in, we could still operate fairly smoothly. Would it look like Mestemaker? No. When you got Jeff Christensen calling Drew Mestemaker the potential next Tom Brady, no matter who the backup is, it's not going to look the same. But Grant Jordan was a kid who threw for like 2,800 yards. He rushed for like, 500, 600, 700 yards. So if we had to put him in for a couple games, couple quarters, yeah, he could hold down the fort pretty daggone well.
Finally, with Oklahoma State, do you think everything is cohesive now? There's been conversations you and I had, administration, it has been toxic in some way, shape, or form, if you want. Is that good now, at least in the right trajectory? Is that fair?
Yes. So I can't like divulge. Here's what I'll say. The players are saying that they're doing things together that they've never done before. And we've got a few players that have been here for 5 years, right? And they're just the stuff they're doing off the field, it's completely unprecedented. Usually you go with your position group buddies to hang out, right? Do some fun stuff. These guys are going mudding, four-wheeling, hunting, shopping, and they're doing it as collective units. And they had this thing where every time you go to the morning meetings and breakfast or whatever, you had to sit at different designated tables. So you got to talk to every single member of the staff. So you got to know every single player, kind of like the Remember the Titans type of thing. It's that kind of deal. And Eric Morris's biggest thing before schematics, before implementation of the offense or defense was we have to be a unit. He thinks that you have to be a cohesive family unit before you can be good at the X's and O's stuff. So his biggest emphasis has been them doing stuff. And I can tell you, some of the things that Drew Mestemaker has done off the field with his teammates have given the defensive guys so much confidence that they know that Drew Mestemaker is going to be the guy no matter what happens. They are already ready to run through walls for him. Some of the defensive guys have talked about it. You carry yourself a little bit differently when you know you got a dude that can put up 40 burgers all the time. It allows you to play more freely defensively. It allows you to take more chances. It allows you to think less. When you have the confidence in your quarterback, defensively, you can do a lot more.
I agree. All right, that leads me to the overall question here at the end, Big 12-wise. Obviously, Texas Tech's the best program in the league right now. It's not really debatable.
That's fair.
BYU is probably next.
Yes.
Utah is the one I don't know because I didn't like how that change took place, especially with some of the stuff that's come out here lately. That makes me a little nervous. But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They still got some pretty good players too, quarterback, etc. Arizona State got 3 good receivers.
They have the best wide receivers. They have the best wide receivers.
Oh, they got some dudes. They do.
Yeah.
Lost quarterback, got 3 receivers, brought in Cutter Bowick, very talented, but he played in a terrible offense at Kentucky. So I don't know what to expect. He'll get coached better.
True.
How does the Big 12 become a league where they're expected to get 2 teams in? And I'm just going to call it out now. You can say whatever you want on this.
Yeah.
They 100% purposefully did not put BYU and Texas Tech on each other's schedule because they're trying to mitigate losses. I'm calling it. If you don't agree, that's fine. I don't care. I'm 100% in on that, and it's not dumb. But
I hope you're right. 100%. I hope you're right.
What do you think though? Like,
yeah, no, I think those are the 2 best teams, Texas Tech and BYU. BYU is again returning like 83-ish, 85-ish% of the returning production. This is year 2 of Bear Bachmeier, and some of the conversations in spring ball seem to be that his processing of information is light years ahead of this previous season. And you would expect that going into year 2, but we've seen it 1,000 times, the sophomore slump, right? It happens all of the time. Early indications are that Bear Bachmeier is not experiencing that, right? Again, we're not in full pads. We're not in the heat of the moment. We're not in ball games, so we don't really know yet. But to me, it feels like BYU is the team that can compete the most with Texas Tech. If they left him off the schedule on purpose, it's a great move by Brett Yormark because he's made some odd moves recently. However, at the end of the day, I think Arizona State does have a lot of weapons. I don't personally believe in Cutter Boley. But when you have that much talent around him, it could be surprising. I don't think Kansas State's gonna enhance the way that they think they are. I don't think Colorado's going to be any good. Unfortunately, I don't think Iowa State's going to be all that good. I think West Virginia, I think they have the right thing going. They have the right people backing them. But 2 years in a row of 65, 61, whatever transfers, like that's you talked about continuity and cohesion earlier.
Don't have any.
Right, correct. I think they're talented, but it's going to take West Virginia time, in my opinion, to mesh together more so than Oklahoma State because we get almost 20 dudes that know the North Texas system. And so in the dorm rooms, they might be playing games, they might be taking classes, they might be drinking spirited water, but they also might be learning the playbook together. And that seems to be what is happening, which is why I think Oklahoma State could finish in the top half of the Big 12 this season. But at the end of the day, if I had to bet money, Arlington right now would be Texas Tech and BYU. But here's the beauty of it. Every time there's been a projection of the Big 12 teams to make the playoff, it has or make the Big 12 title, it hasn't happened outside of maybe Texas Tech. But even then, there wasn't a ton of people picking Tech last year. There were some, but not a lot. So no year yet has the top 2 teams coming into the season finished anywhere near the top 2 at the end of the season. So it should be BYU and Texas Tech, but this is the bipolar Big 12, buddy. So something's likely crazy to happen, and maybe it's in Arizona or Oklahoma State that pops up in Arlington. If you were asking me, do I bet on Texas Tech or BYU or the house? I'd probably bet on the house in this ridiculous conference.
I think Arizona's a really good one. They got a veteran quarterback. He's a pretty good coach.
Yeah.
Nobody takes Arizona seriously, so that's certainly helpful. That could be the sleeper pick right there.
Yep. Their defensive backfield is probably one of the best in the Big 12 as well.
Cody, tell everybody where they can find your work, my friend.
Locked On Oklahoma State, at All Day O State on X. It's O State all day, so backwards on all the other media platforms. I do have a good old tiki-taki now, so make sure that you guys go follow me on that. I think it's O State AD. I believe so. That's how great I am at it. And then I like to poke my head around occasionally. So if you see me out and recruiting or 7-on-7, feel free to throw things at me because I still got them hands, Brian.
You can find the Portal Podcast all the same places you find Locked On Oklahoma State: Spotify, Apple, Podbean, YouTube, you name it. We will see you again soon. This has been a crossover Locked On Oklahoma State and the Portal.